Hiya, at BMW headquarters in the UK. I'm here today to try out some of the new 2021 bikes, and the first thing I took out this morning was the R1250RT. What a machine. According to the sales figures that BMW sent me a couple of months ago, this is the best-selling touring bike in the UK, and it's super easy to see why. I've been up and down the motorway today, and it's absolutely incredible. So comfortable, so planted and stable, so much so that I reckon it's probably the best bike I've ever ridden for motorway riding and getting those big miles in. The fundamentals are pretty much the same for 2021, so you've still got the 1250 Boxer twin, same power figures, chassis pretty much the same, but there's some interesting new tech, new creature comforts and bits of redesigned equipment that I think just take it to that next level in terms of like beautiful motorway cruising. The big headline piece of tech is the adaptive cruise control. There's a radar on the front of the fairing there, and it gauges your distance from the car in front and maintains a set distance. There are 3 settings, so you can be close, medium, or a bit further back, and it just does all the work for you, feathers your speed, and I think that leaves you to concentrate on what's happening around you. Here's a quick demo of how the system works that I filmed earlier when I was out riding. On the left switch gear, you've got an on-off slider here for the whole cruise control system. So without that on, neither the set and resume or the distance buttons for the adaptive cruise control system are going to be working. So you switch that on, and then when you hit a speed that you're happy with, like 70 here, you hit set, and now you can see that the cruise control system has detected the lorry in front of me because you've got that green symbol there. So even though I've set the cruise control system here at 68 miles per hour, it's slowed down to 60 just to follow this lorry in front. The distance button on the left switch gear here cycles through 3 settings, so this will follow it very closely. You can see 1 bar, and it's speeding up ever so slightly to get a little bit closer to the lorry in front. I'd say that's a touch close for comfort, so you might press it a couple more times, back off to 3, and it will go right back. As you can see, it's slowing down here to 56. There's nothing behind me, thankfully. And then once you've hit that distance, now it's just resuming up to about 60 like this lorry is doing. It's really nicely done. It does have an overtake feature as well, I believe, so I might, once this car's come past me, stick the indicator on. And as you can see, it's speeding up and then getting that distance from the car that's now in front of me. I know that not everybody is convinced by this tech yet, but I'll give it a go because it's really intuitive. Now, as far as I know, there are 3 bikes on the market that you can get this tech on. There's the Ducati Multistrada V4 if you pay to upgrade to it. KTM's 1290 Super Adventure S has it as standard. It's an optional extra on this bike, but it has to be said, this is the only out-and-out touring bike that actually has this tech at the moment. If you're doing a lot of touring or motorway commuting and you're even slightly curious about this tech, get down to a dealer, try it out on a demo bike. I'm sure you'll be impressed. In order to accommodate the radar in the front end there between the lights, they've redesigned the lot. The fairing's new, the windscreen's new, and that's another great feature on this bike. So the screen's electronically adjustable from the button on the left switch gear here. That's nothing new. They've been doing that for years and years. But what is new is the ducting under the screen here. So the guys at BMW here were telling me that the previous generation, if you've got the screen right up in this top position, it creates a bit of a vacuum, and that pulls your upper body ever so slightly forward, and after a long time that can be a bit uncomfortable. So what they've done is allowed a bit more air to flow under the bottom here, and that breaks that vacuum. I've got to say, this is one of the quietest cockpits that I've ever ridden. If you get a gust of wind, you can feel it and hear it, but otherwise you can just hear that Boxer twin purring along, which is of course a very nice thing. I'm not even wearing earplugs now, and I don't think I need them. I mean, I probably would wear them, but for a short blast, you certainly don't need them. Obviously, this is going to vary from rider to rider because tour riders are always going to get a bit more blast, but I believe there's a bigger screen as an accessory, so you could always look into that. I mean, the best thing to do is always to go and test ride any bike, but for me at 5'9", 175 centimeters, this is a very comfortable and quiet bike. I can hear a little bit of buffeting if I sit up, especially if I'm behind a big lorry or something, but in a relaxed riding position, it is just so quiet. Almost peaceful. Not only is the screen improved, but the plastics here of the fairing, they're actually lower, so it gives you more visibility vertically. So if you're scanning the road ahead for potholes or whatever, and certainly if you're a shorter rider as well, you've got a much better view of what's coming directly in front of you. Now, another really significant update for this year is the TFT Dash. It's absolutely massive. It must be the biggest screen I've ever seen on a motorcycle. Last year I was lucky enough to borrow the F900R for a couple of weeks. That's their naked bike that's super competitive in its price, and I was so impressed with how good the Dash was, both in terms of the physical qualities, how it didn't reflect too much, how contrasty it looked, but also the design of it and how easy it was to navigate and how clean and stylish it looked. This is like that, but just boosted up and made much bigger. So obviously you've got lots of space here for the nav when you connect to your phone, so it's really clear and easy to see. It makes it easy to navigate the menus as well because there's a lot of space and it's well sized. But probably the best feature is you can use the jog wheel on the left hand switchgear here to split the screen, so you can see your revs, you can see what gear you're in, all that kind of regular riding information, but then you can cycle through nav or music or trip meters and those kinds of things on the right hand side. There's so much space that you can basically see whatever you want whenever you need it. This is another optional extra, but there's actually a stash for your phone here as well. So this is the ultimate cubby hole for your phone. They've thought of everything. There's a USB socket, so if you want to charge your phone with a cable, you can do that. But if your phone supports wireless charging, it will just charge it when you pop it in there and have the ignition on. It's integrated with the keyless system as well, so you can lock it with the button there. So let's say you're popping into a petrol station and you don't want to get your phone out, but you don't want anyone to nick it, you can just lock it like that. It's weatherproof, so rain can't get in there and get your phone wet. Obviously that's a bad thing. But when your phone is charging, obviously it can get a bit warm, and black plastic in harsh sun, that heats up as well. So they've actually put a fan in there to make sure that your phone doesn't get too hot. You connect your phone to the Dash with Bluetooth, and then you have to connect through Wi-Fi as well. So you've got both connections at once to get the maps feature. But ultimately, you don't need a cable. So it makes it very convenient to slot your phone into that cubby hole. No need to plug it in or anything like that. It's just easy to get in and out. It's even got a little clip in there that adjusts, stops your phone bouncing around, because that would be quite annoying in terms of noise and probably damaging to your phone eventually. The only caveat I've got is that my phone's an iPhone 11 Max or whatever, one of the big ones. In its case, it doesn't fit, so I have to take it out of the case just to get it in there. Slightly annoying. If you got a smaller phone, obviously that's not going to be a problem. It's got the usual riding modes of dynamic, road, rain. They affect throttle response, rider aids, and the electronic suspension that you've got on this bike as well. But there's also Eco, which is new on this bike for this year, and the GS gets it as well, I think. It really softens the throttle up, sips on fuel, but also you've got this bar here that shows you how economically you're riding. So the more that you're on the throttle, the bar goes down, and then when you close the throttle, it fills up again to encourage you to be a bit gentle, The only drawback I can see is you probably want to use that feature on the motorway to save on fuel, and you have to pull the clutch in and close the throttle to enable it to switch any riding mode. Now they've got to do that to stop you from accidentally switching mode, I guess, but if you're pulling onto the motorway, it might be worth putting it into Eco before you actually hit the motorway, so you don't have to pull the clutch in and close the throttle when you're actually on the motorway with traffic coming up behind you. It's not really a fault of BMW. They don't want you changing riding modes by accident, so that's why you have to select it like that. But I guess just something to be aware of if you're thinking of trying out this bike. Obviously there are some other great offerings out there on the touring market. BMW's own K1600, the Goldwing, I tried that out last year and absolutely loved it, but I don't think any of them can match the kind of cockpit on this bike in terms of that huge dash. The phone stash, I like the favorites buttons down here as well for navigating the menu quickly, and then there's the adaptive cruise control, which, like I said earlier in the video, nobody else has. The other thing that I really like about this bike as well is that it's not as heavy as those two other machines. Those are like 350 kilograms or something like that. Of course, they feel super planted because of that weight, and they sort of iron out any bumps in the road. But this is about 50 or 60 kilos lighter, so when you do get off the motorway and find some more engaging roads, this bike is just that little bit more nimble, and you do really feel it. I mean, 60 kilos is like the equivalent of having a small passenger on the back, and we all know how much that affects the handling of the bike and the way that it stops and accelerates. Honestly, had a brilliant time on this bike. I'd love to know, as always, what you think of it down in the comments below. Leave me any questions and I'll try and get back to you as well. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe and I'll catch you next time.